an older person, you still keep a lot of traits. So we just to be very specific when it creeps in. Most of the time for me with Ahsoka, I think that she's looking at this world of these friends, and especially Kanan and Ezra, and it reminds her of the way things used to be, and things aren't that way now. That all got taken from her, and she's trying to figure out how does she move forward herself. But she very much respects them and cares about them and is happy for them, but she doesn't have that anymore, and she wouldn't even inject herself or include herself in what's going on there, except in very minimal ways as she figures out her own path.
Dave, could you talk a little bit about, you've done so many voices and so many big projects. Is there something different about being part of the Star Wars universe?
Oh yeah, I mean, for me, there's a lot very different about being a part of Star Wars. I mean, first of all, this is something I've loved since I was a kid. I mean, I always show around the picture of the Jawa costume my parents made for me the Halloween after A New Hope was released in 1977. So this is something I was very interested in, definitely on my radar all of my life. So to be involved in something that you really love deeply as a kid, but to be in it, it is living a dream like no other project that I've been involved with. And that it's such an enduring and beloved and interesting and rich universe, and that it continues to expand, that makes it even better. It's that it's not just kind of a one-off or a quick thing, that it's just part of this evolving, growing, living mythology planet that covers our planet. I mean, it's a remarkable thing. I don't know what to compare it to. I think it's fantastic.
And you've played more characters in Star Wars than any other actor in the world.
Well, I suppose
like
that's...
You can't even count, credited-wise, how many...
Yeah, I count every clone, so yeah. So,
that's right.
Every one of them gets counted.
That's right.
This one is for Vanessa and Freddie. How do you think the relationship between Hera and Kanan has grown and changed as they're sort of the head of the family on board the Ghost?
Well, the threats are a lot bigger in Season 2 than in Season 1. Season 1 is a bit more happy-go-lucky because we're winning. We're dealing with small-town government, and it's not that big a deal. In Season 2, I mean, everybody's seen our summer movie now. It's Vader, so it's, you know, the stakes can't get higher than that. So, you know, when you guys saw that, you know, my wife's playing the seventh sister, and we don't know the gentleman playing the fifth brother, but we know that there are two of them chasing us, so there's not going to be as much time for those sort of, you know, hey, here's a private moment. They may try to, you know, steal some personal things, but it's usually going to be to resolve conflict or to help me sort of believe in a plan that I may not necessarily believe in, but I've been asked to trust by Ahsoka. I don't want to be with this guy. Rex to me is not deep. Like, I love deep, but you know, if you've read the comics, you've seen in a very sort of visceral way why Kanan would sort of not think that's cool. So it's, you know, you'll see more of that than you will the space marriage lane, if that's where it's just not going to be as much of an option.
I would say it's more, I'm asking him to trust more than ever before.
Yeah.
Because if you have empirical evidence and a personal experience with a clone basically, you know, annihilating not only...
And he looks just like the dude who did it.
Exactly. I'm begging him to go from our small structure into a bigger militaristic structure, which he detests. And he must cooperate. So I feel like if there's an affection for them, it's now she's cashing that in to really get him as a call to action and to commit to what looks like a ridiculous idea. So I think the ask is bigger for Hera. and the fact that he follows through and does is a demonstration of his love. I don't know that we have time to talk about all that. So it's perhaps what's said without words.
But she loves me though. No?
Yeah. I think I spend more time in season 2 hoping he's still alive. And I'm the getaway driver waiting, standing by. So there are a lot of really great lightsaber duels and chases and all sorts of things to look forward to.
The getaway driver always gets killed.
Yeah. No, she doesn't.
No, she doesn't.
Not in this iteration, thank God. But anyway, I think it's more what's said without words than what you'll actually see in terms of banter and affection.
All right, Justin, you want to close it out? This is the last question.
This is for Dave. I'm curious because of what you said about Sabine this season having a little bit more of a journey. And also it seems like there were more references to Mandalore in those 2 episodes than all of season 1. Can you talk a little bit more about the journey that Sabine is going to go on this season?
I mean, I just think it was important to flesh out all the characters, and, you know, especially a character like Sabine. There's so many interesting things, just the fact that she's Mandalorian. And we dealt so much with Mandalorians in Clone Wars. It has a whole history that I've diagrammed at whiteboards on Lucasfilms multiple times with Bob McDowell. We try to track all these family houses and who belongs to what. I mean, it's a very complex world, and one that I know fans are interested in. So I just think the idea that she's from this warrior culture gets brought to the forefront as we move forward, because I think people would want to know about it. I mean, you know, she, like anyone, has parents and a family, and what were they like? And now that we know that there was such a history on Mandalore, were they involved in any of that, you know, that we saw? The interesting thing to me has been, like, this was a strange discovery this season, but I found there to be at least 2 cases where we were filming something and had developed a character, and then I realized, oh, that character had been on screen in Clone Wars, but I didn't even know it, because they had a helmet on. So, but when you think about it, it's reasonable to assume that this character was standing right there. And I did, but because in Clone Wars they were just a background character wearing a helmet, you would never know. But now, it's like sometimes you find these people in this story as you evolve. And I would say that's a bit of the case with some of Sabine's history. You know, that she wasn't around to see any of that. She was such a young child. But, you know, it's important. I can't even get into the importance of developing these female characters in a multiple roles, as mentors, as combatants, strong personalities. You want the whole range for people to look at. And as you go through Star Wars, we have so many examples of so many different characters, you know, for boys to grow up emulating. And it's like, you know, we need to broaden that. It's just been a real goal of mine. My wife is very outspoken in all these things that she studies and researches. And the most important thing I've done is listen to her. And any other you know, woman that's come up to me to say, hey, this is what I feel we're missing and lacking. It's the same trait I took on, frankly, that made me successfully work with George. I listened to him. You know, I don't know the best way to tell those stories. I'm in a position where I have the authority to put them into play. So my strongest play here can be, I want to activate that. I want to create these opportunities and then see how far they can go. I mean, Tia, you know, has earned, I think, that her performance, Vanessa's performance, so strongly identified with girls because they go, oh my gosh, Han Solo was the pilot that I knew. Now it's Hera. And she's an awesome pilot. You know, what does that mean? When Ahsoka stepped on the stage and is the apprentice to what people always identified as the most powerful Jedi of all time, it was like a bomb for fans. What? How can that be? Well, it just is. Just deal with it. Guess what that means? It means that she's a better sword fighter than Kanan. Period.
I don't care. I don't have
So I think
People take it way more personally than I do.
when you can develop these characters, though, it's just so important because it makes your universe real. It makes these, because people feel these characters are real, these people are real, and I just think it's the way to go, and she's interesting. Hera's interesting. I want to tell stories about compelling people, and you know, Freddie gets his day, Taylor gets his day, Steve gets his day, even Chopper gets his day. There's a massively huge Chopper episode. When I talk backstories this year, everybody gets it. You will find out where Hera found Chopper, why, how she rebuilt it. It's actually really important. But I would say of arcs, Chopper is the only one that does an arc. He's kind of a jerk in the beginning, and he's still pretty much a jerk later. If you think your cat, you know your cat will get to the period it gets older, it's kind of will sit on your lap more, but it's still a jerk. There's not much you can do to change it. I think it's important for Chopper, but he does get a friend this year. So he doesn't really have.
That he doesn't eject out an airlock.
Yeah, that's a big step for him.
It is. It's
a
growing.
big step. But you know, just because that was the last question.
That was the last question.
Did you like the episode?
Woo!
It's a very important episode arc to me, you know, to have Rex back, and you know, you want to make sure you get that right. And just to talk briefly about that, if I can, you know, the whole thing with the clones, when I started to think about bringing them back, and I guess this is because I'm from Pennsylvania, and when you live in Pennsylvania, most old people move to Florida. And they fish, and they buy a big Winnebago or whatnot RV, and they travel to Florida. So I was always fascinated by that as a kid, and I would always draw Rex fishing. My grandfather used to fish, you know, and he would take us fishing. And I thought this image of him fishing, sitting on the back deck of something somewhere, and then I made the back deck of it a walker. And then I realized that the big gun on the ATTE looks like a giant fishing rod. And it just all started to fall into place. And it's one of those awesome things, too, because I could tell at certain points, Henry Gilroy was like, are we seriously doing that? I'm like, yes. The fact that you think it's weird really motivates me. Make this happen. It's the wrong way to go. So I like this idea that it was a difficult thing for the clones, that they basically outlived their usefulness, and the Emperor got rid of them, the old guys. And so what did they do? Some of them go work on the docks, some of them just, you know, wandered the streets of Coruscant, I guess. Rex somehow managed to tank and got that, and hooked up with Wolf and Gregor. So I can finally live up to what I promised kids about Gregor surviving that, which is cool for me. And there are these three old guys fishing, which is a very comforting thought to me, I guess. So that was the whole motivation, and I wanted this kind of house-moving castle walking tank, wonderfully designed by Andre Kirk on the design team. And that you can't look at without hoping it becomes a Lego set, right? So we're all on the same hopes for this stuff, just so you know whether you're on the show or not. But you know, and it was a nice story for the team that's working on Rebels that worked on Clone Wars to get to tell, because it was so familiar to us, and the characters were so familiar to us.